If you're tired of nagging your son to do his homework, to do chores, to apply for jobs, all of that, then you're in the right place. So my name is Agam Duan. I'm a child, adolescent, and adult psychiatrist, and so it's my job to help moms like you help their sons thrive. So the problem that I run into with a lot of moms is that they're like, "Hey, I'm trying to do my son to do X thing. I want him to do Y. He sits at home. He doesn't fill out his job applications. He just sits there gaming all the time. He doesn't want to go to like practice. All of these different things. And the problem is that you might feel like you're nagging, or he'll feel like that way. For example, I remember that I had this 25-year-old guy, and so he is a gamer. So he had lost his job, so he's staying with his parents for the time being, and the mom was trying to get him to get up on his feet, to get a new job again, and so she would like send him all these different jobs that he could apply to, and she would like nag him, say he needs to stop gaming, he needs to stop gaming. Like I would have sessions with her, and she would break down crying, saying like, he's been gaming for so long and no one agrees with him, or no one agrees with me, and that type of thing. And I was like, Mom, I completely understand. You want him to be successful, but this nagging approach is not going to cut it, right? What you have to do is we have to help him level up so that he is able to become responsible, right? That's what's going to be the most important thing long-term wise. You can't be there all of his life to help him. So now how do we get his responsibility stat up, right? Because if you think about it, like what we're trying to think about a kid like a plant, right? To make a plant flourish, what you have to do is you have to have the right soil, you have to have sunlight, you have to have water, you have to have oxygen, and you have to have time. Those are the key ingredients. And so oftentimes a lot of parents think that if they just water the plant harder, or they dig it deeper, or they make the sunlight more, that it's going to help the kid do the thing more. It's not. You're going to drown the kid in water if you water it more, right? What you have to do is facilitate and create the natural conditions such that his own natural proclivity comes out, his own kind of responsibility, right? Think about it like if you are constantly putting demands on him from up top, then he's being suppressed right here. But if you lift up a lot of that, then it allows his natural stuff to come out and shine. So that's our ultimate goal, right? So the way to do that is that we have to teach him through consequences. That's going to be the most important thing here, is like natural consequences. For example, so I remember I had a mom, and she kept like the kid would never do his laundry. I think he was 16 years old, and so he never did his laundry, and because mom would always do it, so there was no reason for him to do this laundry. The laundry kept piling up and piling up, and then eventually, school came around and he didn't have clothes. Well, the mom was like, well, like I don't know what you're gonna do. Like you don't have any clothes to wear. You've run out of underwear, and so the kid, like, I think he begged and begged. Mom's like, well, you got to fix this problem. So he did literally like laundry that quick, or I forget, like either he did the laundry that morning, or he like borrowed his dad's thing for one day, like some big oversized shirt. But then, when he came home, like he did the laundry, because that was the natural consequence of doing it, right? Too often as parents, we don't want our kids to feel the consequences, feel suffering and pain. And I get that, right? As a parent, you want to protect your child. That's your baby. Like that's the most important thing. However, consequences is how we learn, right? Literally, I just had this example. I left my apartment, and I saw there was water on the ground, and I was like, I'll be fine. Like the rain's not gonna affect me, or it's probably not gonna rain. Like I didn't even check the forecast. Leave for work that evening, and literally pouring, just pouring rain. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I checked the forecast, and it wasn't going to end until like 11 p.m. So I'm like, like I have to go through this. And so, I had my bag on. My bag got completely soaked. Luckily, I had on a windbreaker, like a puffer type of jacket, so and with a hood, so it protected me. But, my pants still got soaked. Like when I came home, like my pants, literally, they were khaki pants, and like the whole front was brown. Like, like because they were so soaked with water, then they were dark. So the point is that consequence taught me, okay, oh snap, okay, if I suspect there's going to be rain, I need to look at the weather forecast and make sure that I pack my umbrella. Like that's going to be the most important thing. So now let's say if he forgets his homework, right? I've had parents literally like take time off their work to drop it off at school. Like, no, like that's, he has to learn. Like, he can take a failed grade. Like, that's okay. It's not gonna kill him, right? It's better. And like a lot of parents will think like, no, like my kid needs to get the best grades possible. And yes, that's true. To some extent. However, it's better for him to learn these skills now for grades rather than learning them in a job workplace where he could miss a deadline or potentially get fired or lose his job, right? So we don't want that. We want him to learn these skills now. If he doesn't adequately prepare for a test, right, rather than trying to cram him last minute. Or I've had parents like call into the school, like say their kid is sick, or to demand like a retest or something because their kid didn't get the grade they wanted. Well, what you're doing is you're teaching your kid that you can get away with these consequences and you can avoid them, right? Rather than learning from that, right? So like that kid should fail that test if he didn't adequately prepare for it, because like that's how you learn, right? If he has an art project or whatever that he has to get done and he doesn't do it to the last minute, that's probably going to be a pretty crappy project. And like if he didn't bring supplies, then he asked for it in the last second, then that's something that he should have asked for earlier. Even relationship wise, right? Like if he's dating some girl who's not the best for him, like you could maybe tell him once, but if he is not listening to you, don't keep nagging him about it. Let him experience those consequences on his own. And then once that's done, like the relationship ends, then you can explore it a little bit, like see if he learned anything. Because if he didn't, then it's kind of pointless. Think about it like a bowling ball, right? Like if your kid is a bowling ball, you can't really bowl if the guardrails are up. Like you need that stuff to be off to properly bowl. And yes, if the consequences are severe, like for example, like you want him to avoid a DUI, right? If he's drinking, then yes, the guardrails can absolutely come up. But other than that, like let his ball go in the gutter, because that's how he's going to become a better bowler. He's not going to become a better bowler if mom and dad are there as guardrails protecting him from like any little mishap that he might have, right? He might get to the end result, like the bowling pins, from bouncing between mom and dad, but we know that he didn't do it on his own. That's super, super important. One of the other things that you can do also, and I love this, it's called praising respect. So I remember hearing this, I think in a Huberman podcast, where he says that like basically they had two groups of kids, and like one group of kids, they were told you were so smart, you did this so well, and then the other group of kids was told, you worked really hard on this project. And then when they tracked them, for their next thing, the kids that were told that they were smart actually, and like the task was harder, they actually did worse, and they felt worse. But they did worse because they thought it was due to their innate ability, because they were praised for being smart, being intelligent, being beautiful, right? Like as a side note. But the kids that were praised for their effort, they did better because they realized that, okay, if I put in more effort, I can accomplish a better result here. There's a correlation to that. So it's super, super important, and to reward that with attention, that effort, because that's what will sustain the kid for the long term. And even just with other people in general, right? Any members of your team that you might work with, other family members, always make sure to reward their effort and not their innate traits. Reward their work ethic, because that's the behavior that you will cultivate in the future. So basically the whole point is that we want to let our kids experience consequences and responsibility, because that's the only way that they're going to grow. And so if this is something that you're struggling with, or you're struggling with some aspect of your son's relationship and you want help, feel free to book a consult on my website, and we'll see what's the best thing that we can do for him.